everyone. Welcome back to All About the W here on Downforce Radio, the nation's motorsport station. And it's Alex Goldschmidt and L.A. Wilshaw bringing you back all the latest roundup of what's just happened as the round 7 and 8, the last two of the championship for 2021 at Circuit of the Americas have just taken place. And L.A., first things first, we have to say a very big congratulations to now two-time W Series champion, successfully defending a crown, Jamie Chadwick from Veloce Racing. I mean, what a weekend for W Series. 2 races, a fantastic qualifying format where it came down to the best lap time and the second best lap time. And we got a surprise there, didn't we?
Yeah, just the whole weekend was amazing, really. Full of sort of ups and downs for all the girls, it didn't disappoint regarding the premise of motor racing. And of course then we had our Jamie Chadwick crowned the champion. And I think that there are a few Brits on the grid, and being British ourselves, I think that we you can take it that we do have a little bit of fandom there going on. Just sort of natural, it's just natural, isn't it, really, to want to support your own. And I think it was just amazing how we had, Alice and Jamie fighting it out for the end, because there are so many amazing qualified girls on that grid from all the different countries around the world, which is also brilliant to see, the nationalities that grace W Series. And yes, congratulations to Jamie. I couldn't be happier, and for Alice for a very, very good season.
Yes, indeed. So Circuit of the Americas, based in Austin in the Lone Star State in Texas, designed by Herman Tilke. It broke ground back on December the 31st, 2010, which is just close to 11 years ago. And it's hosted quite a lot of adventures, but the Grand Prix circuit, 3.426 miles in length. Now, with qualifying, we had a star on our hands, and that was the sensation that is Abby Pulling, 18 years of age, recently had to curtail her British Formula 4 Championship credentials due to a lack of funding. But she came good on qualifying day, did Abby. And to be honest with you, I was really looking forward to seeing who was going to be on pole position for round 7 of the championship, and just to see how mature a drive that Abby put in qualifying. I mean, she's a 2-time Super 1 Series Junior TKM champion, and she pipped Jamie Chadwick by 7/100ths of a second to earn her first pole position in W Series. Jamie Chadwick managed to qualify second based on the qualifying session, where the half-hour session not only decided the grid for race 7, but also for the final round of the championship. So it was the best lap time would decide their position on the grid for race 7, and the second best one for the final round of the championship. But Abby Pulling has just really grown in leaps and bounds. She's adapted well. Very, very good friends. I think even mentored by Alice Powell from Racing X. And she really did showcase that come next year in 2022, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with, that young lady.
Yeah, her name was floating around before, sort of maybe the first year of W Series in 2019, and Abby's name was floating around, not necessarily associated with W Series, but a potential, because she was already making a name for herself in the other series that she was in. And it was I think probably maybe, I'm not going to say a surprise as in a bad surprise, but it was a really good surprise to hear her name announced at the beginning of this season. And it's like, wow, we've heard of this girl, and now she's suddenly getting her opportunity in W Series. Obviously not every race weekend, but this particular weekend, in qualifying, she even had that bit of an issue with the bodywork being a little bit loose, and that all got fixed up for her. Didn't faze her whatsoever, and she was switching that lead in qualifying with Jamie Chadwick, with the W Series double champion. And I think that those kind of comparisons, when you are comparing one driver to a champion driver, that is when you see the potential of another world champion. And Abby Pulling has absolutely got a championship within her. We can clearly see this under pressure, you know, at a circuit that is very difficult, is very tricky. She hasn't done every race this season, and look at what she can do. She can get pole position in a qualifying session with, you know, what I've just said, with all those other incredible women on the grid. I'm so impressed, and you know, and I hope that if we do get to do maybe a season summary, I think that'd be really nice if we could maybe do that at some point, you know. And I'm definitely going to throw some more word superlatives in for Abby Pulling for sure, and I've got my eye on her now.
A lot of people have got her on their radar, and I'm sure that some of the Formula One teams have done so as well. Top 10 in the qualifying results for round 7 of the championship, covered by less than 0.8 of a second. It was a difficult session for Alice Powell from Racing X. You know, both herself and Jamie came into the final 2 rounds, which were amended from originally being COTA, and then the Autodromo Hermano Rodriguez in Mexico City 2 weeks after round 7, but it got changed around, and we got a very, very closely put together double header in terms of the timetable. But Alice did have struggles for the best lap, but she was a little bit better on a second best lap. But it was Abby Pulling that took pole for round 7 ahead of Jamie Chadwick. Great to see the Scuderia W pairing of Spain's Belén Garcia and Mumu herself. Yes, she has definitely gone with a hashtag. Sarah Moore in the number 26, who recently celebrated her birthday, and great to see that all the girls in the paddock were there to help her celebrate as well. So what a way to spend your weekend, having a lot of fun in the paddock with your good friends in the paddock, but also going out and enjoying racing as well. Emma Kymäläinen, our flying Finn and W Series, rounded out the top 5 ahead of Marta Garcia. Beitske-Visser, last year's, 2019 runner-up to Jamie Chadwick, in 7th ahead of Jess Hawkins. Fabian Volven from Liechtenstein rounded out the top 9 ahead of Alice Powell, Noyes, Ella Agren, Saber Cook, Nerea Marti, Abby Eaton, Miki Koyama, Caitlin Wood, Vicky Piria, and Brazil's Bruna Tomaselli. That was the results from for round 7. Round 8, however, it was Jamie Chadwick that put the boot on the other foot, so to speak. So it was Jamie on pole for round 8, and Abby alongside her on the front row. Good to see that Sarah Moore she was aiming for the top 5 in terms of the championship standings. Obviously, the first season of W Series, she was having to work around a lot of injury problems, especially with her back, and having had that time to refocus, get herself really well prepared, like all the drivers in W Series have done in the lead up to this campaign. Qualified P3 ahead of Marta Garcia. Beitske-Visser was rounding out the top 5, and they were covered by about 0.6. Then Belén Garcia rounded out the top 6 ahead of Emma Kymäläinen. Jess Hawkins, Alice Powell again was at the bottom end of the top 10, just ahead of Fabian Volven, with Saber Cook, Ayla Algren, Nerea Marti, Abby Eaton, Vicky Piria, Caitlin Wood, Miki Koyama, and Bruna Tomaselli. Now, the reason why I have now got to bring this up, because there was a major development ahead of the race weekend, wasn't there, LA? That Irina Sidorkova was denied a visa to go and compete in the United States, which meant that Caitlin had to be drafted in at rather quick notice. She was already over in the States anyway, doing a lot of work with Puma, who are one of the big brands that back W Series. So it was a real shame, because Irina Sidorkova has been a very, very prominent young talent, and it was a real shame to not see her on the grid, because she may have been able to capitalize on earlier successes that not just her, but Nerea Marti had earlier on in the season.
Yeah, it's definitely sad when you know, those kind of events happen. I mean, we don't know the intricate details of, you know, of the visa situation, but obviously she wasn't allowed to participate. And stole that away from us, didn't it? For those last two races, to see exactly what she could have done herself. And yeah, it's very much sad. It's very much a tragedy. But then what one, you know, sort of person loses, another driver gains, you know, and there were drivers this weekend that gained from that. But of course it was great that Caitlin Wood was there and was around to take the seat. And I mean, like the, you know, like Formula One, there are reserve drivers, there are spare drivers. And of course it's very good to see, you know, that the teams and the academies and there are spare drivers, even if it's Naomi, you know, in if she
Yeah.
has to be pulled from presenting duties, you know, there are luckily we can almost always put a full grid out, although it isn't always necessarily that easy either, because we couldn't put the full grid out on Sunday, which I'm sure we'll cover that shortly. But yeah, you know, it's just it's good, as I say, as one driver may lose out, then another driver benefits, and I guess that's the nature of motorsport.
Yeah, we look forward to see how Elina Sidorkova gets on in 2022, because she has a guaranteed seat along with Nerea Marti at the Academy team W Series for 2022. But race 1, round 7 of the championship, saw Jamie Chadwick manage to get a little bit of a gap between herself and Alice Powell going into the final round of the season. And Jamie quickly made work of getting past Abby Pulling going into turn 1, which is that very steep upward incline into a 90 left before going back down through the S's, which very much mimics Maggots, Beckett and Chappell at Silverstone. And to be completely honest with you, Jamie knew what she had to do, LA, and she rose to the challenge. And I'll be completely honest here, Alice had all the momentum in the world coming along with her, and also with Racing X, to have a real good chance. I mean, we saw this with Bikeskivissa right up until the final race at Brands Hatch in 2019, that it was always going to be between these two drivers. You know, granted that Bikeskivissa and a few other drivers haven't had the best amounts of luck. I mean, let's take, for instance, the harrowing incident we saw at Spa-Francorchamps when they were out for qualifying, and multiple drivers, including Bikeska, including Marta Garcia, including Sarah Moore and Abby Eaton, were involved in that multi-car incident. But I think Alice knew that it was going to be a tall order with the results in qualifying, that she always knew that she was going to be on the back foot and whether she could try and move forward. But I think race 1 set the precedent for the remainder of the weekend, didn't it?
Yeah, Alice seemed to have a bit of a tricky weekend, really, because she in practice was in 10th position and equaled 10th position in qualifying, and she couldn't seem to better that. But then you then turn that around into race 1 on the Saturday, and she went from 10th to 3rd, you know, on the podium. And so that obviously goes to show her class, and because, you know, these cars are equal, and it's not easy to overtake in an equal car. You know, most times it's down to the girl, it's down to the skill, which is great to have these equal cars on the grid, you know, in some instances, to see exactly the quality of the driver as well. I mean, there's obviously all sorts of other little things that go into that. It's not as simple as that, we all know. But to see Alice go from 10th to 3rd showed that she hadn't given up. She wasn't giving up without a fight, you know, and that was a great race 1 for her, but very then disappointing and sad to sort of see that the race 2 of her being stuck behind Belen Garcia for quite a number of laps, and not really be able to then maximize her position, you know, into making a difference. And the points at the end, I think, well, the points difference now, it's 15, is that right? Between Jamie and Alice, the way it's finished, 159 and 132. Not 15, 25. Sorry, I can't count. Alex, you have to help me out. Help me out, my counting skills.
We'll get to all the championship standings at the end of obviously
Yeah,
as well. But
yeah,
race,
she's done so well, hasn't she?
She has,
and
and I'm sure.
I kind of wanted to see a new champion in a way. You know, I would have liked to. Yeah, I'd like to have seen Alice, you know, have snatched it this year for sure, because then, you know, we don't want people thinking, oh, is this going to be a one-trick pony? Is it going to be the same person winning every season? You know,
no, I completely hear you on that one, LA. I mean, the race result ended with Jamie Chadwick actually winning the race by 1.2 seconds because Emma Kymäläinen was hot on her heels. Pardon the pun there, ladies and gentlemen. I should be saying hot on the heels of her racing tyres. And it was the 5th career victory in W Series for Jamie Chadwick, an impressive run so far in the 2 seasons that W Series has been out on track. As you mentioned about Alice's drive, determination, will to win, as Mark Blundell would always say, to start 10th and finish on the final step of the rostrum. And she actually nicked it from Abby Pulling on the final lap of the race. But Abby Pulling, again, we are waxing lyrical about this young lady, 18 years of age. She has improved on every single race she has competed in. And she finished 8th on her debut at Silverstone in July. And also, she's done 2 rounds this year. She's done Silverstone and she's done Zandvoort as well. She finished 7th in the Netherlands. Good to see that Mike Bijtskevs managed to keep going and stayed in 5th, which was to put her into 8th position in the championship standings. Jess Hawkins was able to finish 6th ahead of Sarah Moore, I think it was, that ended up finishing P7 at the end of the race itself. Nerea Marti, 8th, ahead of Liechtenstein's Fabian Volven, who's also been doing some racing in Ferrari Challenge Europe this year. So she's had a very, very busy season, she has. Miki Koyama, good to see her finally score. It might just be a single solitary point, but we've always been impressed by Miki Koyama's overtaking prowess. Has been showcased as well this season. Saber Cook, Belen Garcia, Caitlin Wood, Vicky Piria, Marta Garcia, Ayla Algren, Bruno Tomaselli rounded out the 17 strong that finished. However, due to a compound T4 fracture for the number 44 of Great Britain's Abby Eaton, Abby is still in Austin at the moment and had to withdraw for the rest of the weekend. So Abby, get well soon, mate. And we know you're being looked after by everybody at the moment. So all the best from us here at Downforce Radio. Also, after that, we also heard after the weekend that Marta Garcia also withdrew from the final round of the championship, explaining about anxiety and mental health. And this is a subject that I think is now becoming a lot more prevalent. A lot more people are being open about this, LA. And I think this is a very, very good time before we go and talk about the final race and look at the championship standings, is that mental health, anxiety, insomnia, they are all interlinked. And these racing drivers are under such incredible pressure, aren't they?
Yeah, I kind of feel like when I don't want to say normal people, but you know, because who's normal, but people that aren't elite sports stars, for example, and you can sit at home and you can, you know, watch them succeed and have amazing lives, traveling the world, racing each other, and you can kind of be under a false impression that, you know, life's great, everything's all right for them, you know, because you have a different point of view of your own life and what goes on in your own life. But what this last few months, you know, including in the female gymnastics in the Olympics that we have seen, and we even see Lewis Hamilton coming out and being quite transparent about his mental health, is that everybody's human and everybody, it's all relative. Life's relative, no matter who you are on this planet, and we're all susceptible to bad times and not necessarily being able to cope well or being affected by things around us, and you know, and for these girls there's pressure, there is time zones, there is time, not every girl can cope well. Not every man can cope well with the circadian rhythm, with going across different time zones, and especially if they've been used to sort of around Europe, or maybe traveling east a little bit more, and I know even in Formula One this weekend, a couple of the drivers were struggling a little bit with going west, and being on a 6-hour time difference. So the girls are human, and I think that it is very responsible and very admirable for somebody to not only withdraw and take themselves away from what could be affecting them, to come out and speak it and say it, because then we can all associate and we can all understand, and we can also, whatever happens to anybody in the public eye, I think has a big influence on people at home. And if anybody in the public eye then says, well, I'm seeking help, or I'm just taking a step back, makes you feel okay to do that at home too. I need a step back as well from my life, so I don't feel as bad because somebody I can see in the public eye is doing the same thing. And I think one of the expectations we have is that all these elite sports people they're machines, but they're not. They're human beings.
Exactly.
And I can wish the best to any of the drivers that may have been, I don't even like to use the word issues or problems, because that's such a negative connotation, and
True.
it's a very general words to throw around. But I think that it's very responsible to isolate something that's happening in your life and to address it.
Exactly. I 100% completely agree with what you've just said. That I don't really need to add anything to that, ladies and gentlemen, because for an adult to recognize and sort of take a step back, recalibrate, refocus on themselves, have a little bit of that selfish intention to get better. So, Marta, we wish you all the very, very well. And thank you very much for what's been a fantastic season. And as they say in Spain, muchas gracias. I have to bring in a bit of linguistics into there as well. But we go to the final round of the championship, and Jamie Chadwick would not be denied. She took a second consecutive race victory, and thereby not only picked up the top prize of $500,000, but also, as a result of super license points being available from this season, she now has 15 in the bag. And also, congratulations to Abby Pulling, first ever podium of the season, taking the runner-up spot by just after 5 seconds behind Chadwick. And L.A. Alice was the only one that could really deny Jamie of this title, but it was one step too far. I think it was. We mentioned this earlier, that she had a very, very big mountain to climb. It started with qualifying. The first race went really, really well. And I think that if Alice was on level terms with Jamie, I think we could have seen a really, really good dogfight between the pair of them. But unfortunately, we were denied with that sort of spectacle. Very much in the same sort of vein that we saw at the Brand finale back in 2019 at Brands Hatch. It all came down to the final race, and it was Chadwick that was able to just focus on the task at hand, get there, get across the line, and then realize that you've done the double.
Yeah, what is admirable about a champion win, a championship win, is the fact that nothing phased her over the weekend. So, when Abby Pulling did qualify in pole, that didn't phase her. She had a really good start in race 1, and in race 2 she had an amazing start, and she by I think by the third turn or third corner she was off. She'd gone. she was in the distance already. And I think I recall some words that the commentator said, and they were saying how Jamie can deliver under pressure. I also feel there are other drivers that can. I do feel Alice Powell can deliver under pressure too, because we just said that's what happened in race 1, and also for her to finish in P6 and to get that move when she couldn't get past villain. She eventually was quite aggressive, and a fair move, but an aggressive move. And I really liked that. I liked that racing move, that racing driver within her. And I feel that it was just a shame we just don't have maybe one more race, or, you know, because I think that Alice may have pulled that out just a little bit more, that little fighter in her. But yeah, I mean, you know, Jamie didn't crack. She did, and you know, she's even under the pressure of retaining that title. That's also an added pressure for her.
Yeah.
But what I think I like, and this is associated to what we've just been discussing about the mental health side, is that I like competitiveness, competition within the girls. There should always be that, and there should perhaps even also be that little aggressive streak. So then you can gain a position if you really need to get that position. But I do like the camaraderie. I do like the friendship that the girls extend to each other. You know, there was an interview over the weekend with both Jamie and Alice, and they were sort of saying who's better at this, or who's, you know, good at this. And they were very generous with each other. They really were. And it's not exactly a massive love fest. You know, they're not being complimentary just to suck up or something.
Yeah.
They're being complimentary because they genuinely, they admire each other, you know, and they're learning from each other anyway, you know, regardless of, I know they're forming the teams this season, and it's going to be even more of a team mentality next season. But still, you know, the first season, I think, possibly helped to develop that more of a family feel when they weren't in their teams. And now it's relevant and right for them to be in teams, so they can mentally prepare themselves to move on into another feeder series.
Yeah. But after Abby pulling for the 4th time this season, Emma Kymäläinen successfully got on the podium and became our 3rd placed driver in the championship standings. The Flying Finn done a fantastic job this season. We have seen a little bit of glimpse of something what's to come for 2022, because I'm sure that Emma will be gunning for the title. When I spoke to her earlier on this season, after they just had the Anglesey test, she was back at home in Finland, and it was beautiful sunshine. So she was all smiles, and she said, yeah, I can maybe think might go for be able to go for the title. We were denied that in season 1. We've seen a real good brilliance from her all the way through the championship with the QEW, teammate to Abby Eaton. And to be honest with you, Abby pulling, she has qualified for 2022 based on her results. That podium has given her the penultimate opportunity, the penultimate spot on the drivers that have qualified. Now, it was originally 12 for season 1. They dropped it down to 8 for season 2. And straight away, Bajtskivisa has qualified again as well. So that just goes to show how ultra competitive it is. Now, there is a little bit of a different caveat. There's something I need to bring up here, LA. Now, we talked about the super license points. Now, there is a rule in W Series that if Jamie Chadwick decides to come back and defend her title, she does not get the 15 FIA super license points, I understand. That's interesting, isn't it?
It is. I heard that across the weekend at some point. It must have been on Sunday, and I was a little bit I was like, oh, okay. So what are you going to do then?
It's like the FIA F2 rule. If you win the title, you can't defend it.
Exactly. I'm kind of not really sure I like this rule. It's not up to me. I'm definitely in no position whatsoever. I'm no powers that be. But no, I think even from a Formula 2 point of view, I'm not really comfortable with that rule, and I think for various reasons, because, you know, we're at the end of the day, these feeder series are trying to develop drivers to potentially get them into Formula 1, you know, which is the pinnacle of the feeder series in the nature of these cars, the way these cars are developed. Yes, the drivers can go into different series. They can go into Indy, they can go Formula E. but the actual cars themselves, they're all very similar in Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4, W Series for a reason, because they're trying to develop them to get them into F1. So then if there comes this is a massive obstacle from my point of view, that you can either earn extra points for continuing again, or to return as a champion like in Formula 2. And I'm not sure if that may be looked at, because the people that are the powers that be have recently had a lot more to do with the feeder series. We saw Stefano Domenicali, Michael Massey, have that press conference with Bruno Michel not very long ago to say, it was not say of their involvement as such, we kind of know of their involvement, but what it did is it emphasized their presence and their enthusiasm and their support for the feeder series. So I feel that there perhaps could do with maybe some of rule changes, something a little bit different, because we also know that the W Series doesn't earn as many super license points anyway as the other feeder series do, and I would really like to get that looked at as well, because these girls are giving it as much as what the boys are doing. So yeah, I think that we don't want to dwell on negative too much.
No,
obviously,
we want to talk about positives, because the race results finished that Jamie Chadwick took another victory on her way to her second crown. So well done, Jamie. And I'm sure that Veloce Racing had a fantastic party in Austin that very night as well. Abby Pulling qualifies for 2022, as does Emma Kymäläinen. Moo herself, the number 26 Sarah Moore, takes fourth and also has requalified, from what I understand. Beitske took fifth ahead of Alice Powell. And we have to say, in our eyes, Alice, you are a champion nevertheless, because you drove your heart out there all the way through 8 races. She finished P6 ahead of Belen Garcia and Nerea Marti. Ayla Algren managed to take 9th, and good to see Caitlin Wood getting a point to round off the season for her. Ahead of Bruno Tomaselli, Miki Koyama, Saber Cook, Vicky Piria and Jess Hawkins rounding out. And it was unfortunate for Liechtenstein's Fabian Volvend, the number 5, retiring on lap number 9. So the drivers that have now qualified for 2022 are as follows: Jamie Chadwick, Alice Powell, Emma Kymäläinen, Nerea Marti, Sarah Moore, Fabian Volvend, Abby Pulling, and Beitske. So those drivers have a confirmed seat for next season. Irina Sidorkova has missed out. Well, if she was in another team apart from the academy, she would have missed out by just 4 points. But Irina is back for 2022 along with Nerea, so they have a guaranteed seat. They are basically being the ambassadors for W Series through initiatives that Catherine Bond-Muir, the CEO of W Series, and all the team behind the scenes to empower more young women to join motorsports or other sporting activities through the programs that are going to be coming in the next few months and years here at W Series. So Belen Garcia was 10th, ahead of Jess Hawkins, Marta Garcia, Abby Eaton, Miki Koyama, Bruno Tomaselli, Caitlin Wood rounded out the top 16. We've had quite a few changes because we had quite a few drivers coming in. Obviously, Tasmin Pepper was not able to compete this year, the South African driver. She's been racing in the South African VW Polo Cup, and I think she's had some success as well. So good to see, Tamsin. You're keeping yourself busy in the meantime. So Caitlin Wood 16th, ahead of Ayla Algren from Norway. Gorgia Rodes from Poland did get a couple of points on the board, ahead of Vicky Piria and Saber Kirk. I mean, just really, we are going to do a season. We're going to do a season roundup here on All About the W. I'm going to try. I know I do definitely have contact details for one Sarah Moore, so we are definitely getting her on for that one. I can guarantee you that much. So we're going to be speaking to Moo herself. And I know that she's had a lot of support from the family, the Moore family that run Top With Motorsport, and also they have their own karting track. And of course, her fiance Carla, they're due to get married very, very soon indeed. So all the very best to them. But really, just to close things out, LA, this season has been, I think, even more than anyone anticipated. Joining the support series paddock for Formula One was a big milestone, following the efforts from the likes of Dave Ryan, the sporting director, David Coulthard, who is on the board of W Series, and of course Catherine Bond Muir, who without her, we would not be in this situation where a prominent female single-seater series championship has made such a disruptive impact, like it did in its first season, but it's been felt even more. And you know, one thing I've got to say right now is that Williams, you need to get Jamie in a free practice session in Formula One by the end of this season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's the only way it's going to happen. It's the only way women are going to be a familiar sight in the paddock and the pit lane. You know, it's the presence of them in the testing, in the free practice sessions, in the cars, in the F1 cars. I'm you know, there's a massive leap from that W Series car into a Formula One car, but she is a part of that Williams Academy, which is great. But I think that the development over the next season or 2 seasons should definitely come with working with Formula One academies too, you know, and having the girls as part of a Formula One academy as well. And I mean, I don't know how all that works. And even if it's more of a sort of Trevor Carlin idea of he still sort of provides as many drivers as he can through the way he does his business, you know, through Red Bull, that maybe there's ways that teams can do that too. They don't necessarily have to have their own academy at W Series, but they can perhaps have links with Formula One teams, and obviously through the Formula One teams that would come down through Formula 2 as well, and Formula through the other feeder series, Formula 3. But yeah, it has been a great series for W Series, and I feel that, you know, just as we were talking before about Arina Serdakova and her weekend or non-weekend, that made a difference to Abby Pullen. You know, it's made a different outcome for another driver, and a good one, a positive one. And you know, I know that you mentioned the top, well, it's the top 8. We know the top 8 are guaranteed, and then we know the Academy Puma girls are guaranteed. And I pretty much feel that Jess Hawkins, she's had a really tough, quiet, strange season, Jess Hawkins, and I feel that there's perhaps been a lot on her shoulders, and I'm not saying that in any way she's not been able to cope, that's not what I'm insinuating, just a lot on her shoulders with the association with Aston Martin too. But I do feel like she'll be back next season. There's no reason why she shouldn't be, and you know, and with the backing of Aston Martin too, you know, that wouldn't it be good if she could also get some testing or some free practice with them? You know, they're possibly about to lose their official reserve driver. You know, they've got sort of had Nico Hulkenberg in the background there for Aston Martin, and he's potentially going on into an Indy career. Now I do know that Aston still have another driver there in the background too, but wouldn't it be great if Jess could spend a bit more time in their car?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you made a very, very good point there, because Nico Hulkenberg has been stateside testing with McLaren Arrow SP of all IndyCar outfits, and you know, he might be the next driver since Romain Grosjean, who's just signed with Andretti Autosport in the number 28 DHL car that was formerly frequented by Ryan Hunter-Reay. But yeah, I mean, when you think about it, we have from the current W Series grid, we've got Jamie Chadwick aligned with Williams. You've got Jess Hawkins with Aston Martin Cognizant F1. There's another driver that hasn't raced in W Series, but is also in the Formula One paddock. That is Tatiana Calderon with Alfa Romeo. You know, we've got great people within the paddock that represent the growing amount of women that are joining the F1 community, such as Rosanna Tennant on presenting commentary duty. She's been doing a fantastic job this year. Ruth Bunscombe from Alfa Romeo, one of their prime engineers. She was also at Haas for a couple of seasons as well. There are so many great women that are coming into Formula One now. Presenters, broadcasters, commentators. We've always known that with a lot of people like, I think, who is it? Sylvia, that works with Ferrari, heading up their PR department, worked alongside Matt Bishop at McLaren for a number of seasons. And she was very good friends with Fernando Alonso during his time at McLaren, during his couple of tenures there. But it just goes to show that W Series is here, and it is here to stay, LA, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. And I think now they've tapped into that American market. You know, the Americans aren't necessarily as, oh, this is a male sport, this is a female sport. The North Americans are just, this is sport and I just really like it and I'm going to get into it and support it. And I think that with the spectacle that was COTA this weekend, that was Austin this weekend, those girls have made a massive impression on a very big market. And who knows what opportunities can come from being able to race in front of that crowd and in front of those sponsors and all the people that are involved within Formula One. You know, W Series, I really liked the fact that they were the only support. You know, there wasn't F2 or F3 around at the time. It was just F1 and W. Here we go, let's get the girls. And the biggest supporter of them all, if you notice the pictures over social media over the weekend, was Lewis Hamilton, leaning out over the pit wall, filming the girls. What a massive, great ambassador for the sport. And of course, you know, we had supermodels involved too over the weekend, which is even better. You know, so not only is W Series impressing Formula One, it's also impressing the bigger, wider world as well.
I think coming on to what you said about Lewis Hamilton, I still remember a tweet from Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 having Lewis peer through the gap in the pit on the pit lane wall and getting out his phone, and just really that just shows that with a trendsetter such as Sir Lewis Hamilton, so I'm now going to use his official term. There we go. It's the first one for me whenever I've talked about Lewis. But to have the support of a 7-time Formula One world champion, the most successful driver in terms of victories. He's done over 100. He's the most successful pole sitter as well. And he's gunning for an 8th championship, with the battle between him and Max Verstappen on a precipice after what we saw at COTA. But really, the grandstands were full at Austin. And the girls from All About the W Series, they decided to put on one hell of a show. Jamie Chadwick is our 2-time champion. And you know what? I'm going to add something else to what I said about Williams getting Jamie Chadwick behind the wheel of their car. Lawrence Stroll, you know what you need to do. Get Jess behind the wheel of that car. FP, come on. You got to do it, mate. You want her as an ambassador. She's a stunt driver. She can handle herself. Why not, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah. Should we go knock on Lawrence's yacht door?
Yeah, we might have to. Yeah, we might have to take a trip to Silverstone and just knock on the door and just say, "Lawrence, is Jess here? Can you put her behind the wheel of the Formula One car one day in an FP at a Grand Prix weekend?" You know what? I'm sure that something will happen in the not too distant future, that we will see another driver, since Susie Wolff back at Silverstone in 2014, take to an official free practice session in Formula One. And don't forget, follow us on all the relevant social medias at Downforce Radio. That's it from me in LA for All About the W, as we have just rounded out COTA. Join us for our season roundup coming soon to the nation's motorsport station. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye. Bye.